So quick demonstration on the Profiler2. What I'm testing is detecting the height and the width of caulk or glue on the application. So right now I'm about 105 millimeters from the target. Profiler2's got there's already a video here on how to set it up. It helps somewhat. So you can hear the other specs of it, the distances you can be from the target, and the software is located right here. So I'll go ahead and open up the software. The manual has a lot of good information on it. I definitely recommend reading through it if you're having issues, because it's not just a plug in and it work all together. It does take some setup to get it to function correctly. So I've already got a few of them set up. I'll walk through it, but so first we'll connect to the sensor. I've already got bank 5 set up, and what I will do is go into settings and look at some of my speeds. So I'll go ahead and go to bank 6, and now I had this on 1,000. So looking at whatever material you have is very critical. Definitely reference the manual for that to understand your image of what it needs to look like, to understand your different shutter speeds, right? There's a lot of different notes in here on when you don't have enough light, when you have too much. So it does take some time to set up. So since I already know that I'm going to be using HDR, because I have more of a metallic reflective background, I'll go ahead and set my shutter speed at 1,000, and this will multiply it by 4. So if I close this out and go back to high resolution and then open it back up, it should say 4,000. So now that I've got that set up, I'll go ahead and just push refresh, and you'll see this status bar indicating it's going through and it's acquiring a reference image. So once that gets done, then we'll be able to walk through the rest of the process and put in some calculations. So now we've acquired our reference image. You can see I've got, according to the manual, we don't want too much, but we do need to be pretty consistent, right? So you need to make sure that your shutter speed is set correctly. I've got a little bit of extra noise here, but we'll just go ahead with it. So next we want to do is profile, and I'll go ahead and register my image. There's a couple different things that we can do here. We can do a correction, and what we want to do is make sure that our reference image, that these will always cross our reference image, no matter where it's at. Since I'm on a pretty flat plane, I shouldn't have too much of an issue with that. And then we'll register the image. If you did have it tilting or something like that, you could use a tilt function, but I don't need to do that. So the next thing to do is I want to check my areas. Again, we'll be checking the height and the width. For the height, I'll be using a math function. I'll take the bottom and the top, and I'll subtract those two to get an accurate measurement. That way, if we move any in the z-axis, it'll come out correctly. So on the first tool I'll do is use the bottom height, which is this orange one. And once I click on it, since I'm not really too worried about the range, if I had an application I was really worried about, hey, making sure that the width it stayed right within it, then I would dial this in more. Because once it gets out of that range, so within this range, as I'm detecting the bottom height, the lowest position of my target that it sees is going to be what it's going to reference off of. I'll leave the auto correction off. If I had the auto correction on, the tools would move with it. So the next one I'll do will be the peak height. Since I did bottom height on the other one, I'll do peak height on this one, keeping the same tool. So again, I'll just make a large window, and it'll do the exact same thing, but the opposite. It'll look and it'll find the highest point, right? So I'll take the highest point and subtract it from the lowest point. And the next thing I'll do is I want to get the width of it. Go through and make sure the auto correction is off. I do not want auto correction on. And then I'll do the same thing here, and I'll open up that window just so that I've got a larger field of view. So anything within that window is going to get the width. So right now it's going to get the width here, the widest range that it sees within that window. Then I'll come down here, and you can kind of see what I've got going as far as my image. I'll do a calculation, and I'll do the peak height minus the bottom height. Then I'll come to output, and I'll go ahead and offset everything since I know where it's kind of at. So the bottom height, I want to go ahead and offset that to 0. So let's just go ahead and make it a true 0. And then the peak height, I'll just get something to reference off of, and that's about 5 millimeters. So I'll type in 5 millimeters there, and I'll offset it. So since those are set up, now I'll look at the width of what I'm measuring right now, and that's about 6 millimeters. I put the wrong tool in there, so I'll go back and put width on 3. And then I'll offset it to, what did we say, 6 millimeters. Now that I've got all of those set, what I'm going to be looking at is output 1. So we said originally the height was about 5 millimeters. So I'll use calculation 1, which is the height minus the bottom. And I'll make a maximum of, let's say, 6.5 millimeters and a minimum of 4. Now we've got our ranges in there on that. Output 2, I'll set that as the width. Right now the width is 6 millimeters. We'll go ahead and set that from 7 to 5. So now that we've got those ranges set, and once it gets outside of those ranges, then our output will change. I could also come down here and spit out a 4 to 20 milliamp signal with one of those tools as well, but just for demonstration, I'll go ahead and write everything. And I do have a spot here I've pushed down wider. I've got spots over here that are higher, just to show the difference. So now that I've got the red line there, you can see if I turned off the trigger, it would go off. If I turn it on, then it comes back on. I'll do a continuous read. So I'm looking at these two here. So as I move it, once I get to a spot that's no good, then you'll see the value start to change. And my width there, you see I've got just a piece of caulk that's sticking out the side of it. Now I'm getting to a taller, wider area. And I get back to acceptable area and then smaller. So that kind of shows you how to set it up and detect the width and height of a bead of caulk or something like that with a metallic background. Hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.